Welcome to another episode of Battlefield 4 Hardcore Meta, a series covering all Battlefield 4 primary and sidearm weapons in a specifically hardcore context. In this video, we'll be covering the two most conventional LMGs in the game, the Type 88 LMG and the LSAT. With triple-digit magazine sizes, standard LMG damage, and reasonable accuracy, they're effective in holding down long lanes with persistent streams of accurate fire while stationary. First, let's cover the unlock requirements. The Type 88 LMG is unlocked once you get 4,000 LMG score, and is the first LMG unlocked through earning LMG score. The LSAT comes right after, with 11,000 LMG score. You will have access to these LMGs fairly early on in your support class unlock journey. Now let's cover the common traits. In this case, there are only 3 stats that are exactly identical. These two LMGs have exactly the same damage values, and in this case, it's the standard low damage for LMGs, and it's similar to the 5.56 assault rifle damage model. 3 shots anywhere to the body out to 34 meters nets a kill. If you land only chest shots, this extends to 47 meters. A headshot and chest shot results in a kill up to 54 meters. Any range the bullet is still flying, 4 shots kills a target anywhere to the body, or 2 consecutive headshots. Being front-load LMGs, your aimed move speed is 50%, meaning you move fairly sluggishly when aimed. The upwards recoil for both of these LMGs is exactly the same at 0.28 per shot. This is actually on the lower end of things for LMGs and results in a fairly controllable upwards kick. This is a useful aspect of the guns when it comes to staying on target for longer bursts, and is low enough that taking out targets peeking over cover at medium ranges is generally doable. With the common stats out of the way, let's go over similar stats. Connecting to the last identical stat, the first shot recoil multiplier is fairly similar in both cases, resulting in a similar initial kick, and in both cases it's a fairly strong stat. The LSAT's first shot recoil comes in at a 1.25 times, and the Type 88 is only a little worse at 1.35 times. Combined with that low upwards recoil, you get an initial upwards kick of 0.35 for the LSAT and 0.378 for the Type 88. Fairly low and controllable values, though maybe a little more noticeably difficult to deal with for the Type 88. The rate of fire between these two LMGs is relatively similar. The Type 88 comes in at an above average 700 rounds per minute, while the LSAT comes in just average for LMGs with 650 rounds per minute. These are slow rates of fire when compared to all full autos, but when directly compared to LMGs, it places these two guns at pretty standard firing rates. Coupled with the standard low LMG damage model, these weapons don't have impressive times to kill, but are serviceable, the Type 88 being a little more rapid, giving it a better performance for overt suppression tactics, and the LSAT being a little slower, which combined with better accuracy and a smaller magazine makes it more of a marksman LMG. Another similar trait is these LMG's hit performances, something affected by their damage model, rate of fire, and hip cone. In the last stats case, the LSAT is a little more accurate with a hip cone of 5.5, where the Type 88 rests at a fairly poor 6. These are stats that are bad even in comparison to most LMGs. The LSAT's hip fire performance is fairly terrible. In the case of the Type 88 though, it has the worst overall hip fire performance of any LMG in hardcore. These LMG's bloom and fade stats are also fairly similar to one another and are some of these guns' better stats. With a 0.084 per shot spread increase and a 14.7 per second unfired decrease, the LSAT is good at maintaining accuracy in long bursts and recovers its accuracy quickly in between bursts. The Type 88 is only a little behind with a spread increase per shot of 0.091 and a decrease per second unfired of 12.7, and is still on the better end of this set of stats. Though if you are trying to achieve some accuracy at much longer ranges, you might want to stick to shorter and less rapid bursts in comparison. One stat I don't often talk about is max aimed spread, and generally speaking it's a stat that doesn't matter very much. However, LMGs are unique in that they have variable max spreads, and their typically large magazines permit very long periods of firing, making it so it's a little more likely a user of them will reach the maximum spread. In the case of the LSAT, you will have a dead average LMG maximum spread value of 2, and the Type 88 is 10% worse at 2.2. This will generally result in fairly poor accuracy regardless, with the LSAT being slightly better off. In both cases, if you fire 21 shots without stopping with these weapons' basic unmodified builds standing still, you will reach the maximum spread. Considering the large magazines, this is something you can reach if you just hold the trigger for a long time without stopping to burst. Despite largely being conventional LMGs and being overall similar, most of their stats are fairly different from each other, providing fairly different effective playstyles while still retaining some combat flexibility as far as LMGs go. The muzzle velocity of the Type 88 outshines the LSATs by a fairly significant margin. In fact, among LMGs it is second only to the U100's velocity. At 670 meters a second, landing shots on sprinting, dodging, and cover-hopping targets will be much less of an issue. The LSAT, on the other hand, while still good in terms of full automatics, is a more average velocity for LMGs at 620 meters per second, which is good enough for mid to long-range shooting. While I touted in the beginning of this video that these two LMGs have triple-digit magazines, the Type 88 takes another win here by an even more drastic difference with a 200-round magazine, which is double the capacity of the LSAT's 100. However, you achieve a massive kill capacity regardless. Assuming you engage at the 3-shot kill range and land every hit without headshots, you can get a whopping 66 2/3 kills with the Type 88, and 33 1/3 with the LSAT. You might notice more frequent reloads with the LSAT, but really 33 kills is plenty. With those more frequent reloads with the LSAT, its reload speed is only slightly faster of the two at 5.9 seconds, and that's not a particularly great reload time. However, the Type 88 has the second slowest LMG reload of any, at an agonizing 7.3 seconds. The reload time doesn't change if you reload it empty or not. As such, you will likely statistically benefit from more sustained uptime if you let either gun reload automatically at empty instead of reloading whenever things get quiet, as you never know when you might get jumped or when an opportunity to take out a threat at ideal engagement ranges presents itself. The only exception is when you know you are very near empty and you have a very safe spot to hide and you are with backup. Even then, the reload is very long, so keep your sidearm in mind. And if you do find yourself switching to gadgets and sidearms, it's also important that you be able to switch back to your primary weapon relatively quickly in more heated moments. In this regard, both LMGs have a slow swap time, which is typical of LMGs, but the Type 88's is noticeably worse than average for LMG deploy times at 1.2 seconds. This contributes to clunkier handling and can make frontline work a little more risky than average. The LSAT, on the other hand, is still slow, being an LMG, but it's at least dead average for LMGs with a deploy time of a flat 1 second. Still awkward, but definitely gives you a little more breathing room in terms of timing when swapping back and forth. The horizontal recoil of these two LMGs also differ, and in this case the LSAT takes the win with an overall side-to-side value of 0.25 with an even split left and right, with the Type 88 being a more average LMG overall horizontal recoil of 0.48, also equal in either direction. This makes the LSAT a more precise weapon and can make landing follow-up shots much easier. That said, the Type 88 has almost double the side-to-side recoil. It still is a hair better than average in this regard, and since both have an even recoil in both directions, you mostly will just need to worry about upward recoil anyway for recoil control. Unfortunately for the Type 88 though, those okay recoil stats are somewhat sullied by a more noticeably worse recoil decrease value of 12 per second, as compared to the LSAT's more middle-of-the-road value of 15. This can make tracking where your aim is wobbling to for sustained fire more difficult, reducing the Type 88's follow-up precision a little more. This accuracy difference is further compounded when you look at the weapon's arguably most important spread value, minimum spread. While I mentioned before that the bloom and fade stats of the weapons are similar and fairly good, the Type 88 has the worst available LMG minimum spread of 0.3, and the LSAT has the more average value of 0.25. So while the accuracy won't decrease as you fire as much as other weapons, in either case you don't get the best value up front, resulting in poor to mediocre accuracy overall, and you will feel this with the Type 88 the most. This is further demonstrated with their effective aimed move accuracy. They do have the same aimed move speed of 50% being non-bullpups. Doing the math, the LSAT gets a effective aimed move spread of 0.875 and the Type 88 gets 1.15. While the Type 88 definitely is inferior for moving aimed fire, I don't really suggest aim strafing with either. Now that we are done with the stats, let's take a look at build suggestions. In both cases, my strongly recommended barrel and grip for both of these LMGs is a heavy barrel and stubby/potato grip for general use. In both cases, the guns benefit from being able to maintain sustained accuracy for as long as possible with the stubby/potato. Further, since their upwards recoil is generally low, the heavy barrel's negative impact of increased upwards recoil will be minor, and overall accuracy will be maximally improved with this setup. That said, if you do want to try some bipoded defensive long-ranged fighting, you can also try using a bipod on the Type 88, as deploying a bipod will make its minimum accuracy much better, allowing you to better capitalize on its high bullet velocity. As for sights and accessories, both LMGs work fine with a 3.4 times scope and a laser sight. While in both cases, hipfire is a notably weak option, in sudden close-range emergencies, you might not have time to swap to a sidearm or a CQC gadget, and flipping on the laser instantly to slightly improve the poor hipfire performance might be your best bet in some cases. It also can make for a decent way to improve accuracy for pre-firing hipfire around corners. As for what sidearm to select, seeing as these LMGs actually have fairly fantastic ammo reliability owing to massive magazines, an emergency sidearm won't be often needed. You could run the G18 if you really wanted a close-range focused weapon. However, if you do want something that has a fast swap time and is good in close range, the Compact 45 and Shorty 12G are also good choices. Just note that if you run the XM25 Dart, the Shorty 12G becomes a redundant choice. For gadgets, these LMGs tend to function well in Conquest in large maps, where vehicles likely are to be present. As a result, C4 and the ammo box are a safe bet in both weapons cases. That said, if you are going to be the one driving vehicles, the MP APS can be used to protect ground vehicles from fire. If you're playing an infantry-only map or mode, the XM25 Dart can help make up for the weapon's poorer performance in very close ranges. In terms of grenades, the LSAT and Type 88 pair well with almost any of them. But if I was forced to choose the best option, I'd go with the reliable M67 frag as a means to protect you during long reloads and to discourage CQC rushers. The Type 88 with a bipod can also strongly benefit from flares in indoors areas. Just throw them behind you to make all threats struggle to spot your bipoded machine gun position. As for field upgrades, the offensive field upgrade works well for the LSAT. It leans a little more in the direction of objective play in Conquest, and the offensive field upgrade synergizes the best with that style of play. The Type 88 leans a little more into being a defensive lockdown style LMG, and benefits from the defensive field upgrade with its standard build. But if you are really going all out on playing a long-range suppressive fire class with the bipod, perimeter defense is a decent choice as well, if only for the improved suppression. Now let's go over more general tactics. Being conventional big magazine LMGs, these weapons can dish out pain for extended periods of time, locking down lanes for your team or even wiping out huge numbers of enemies in a fairly brief amount of time. Going over their performance over various ranges, they both have okay long range, excellent mid range, and poor to mediocre close range performance. When it comes to where you should aim, headshots are helpful at medium range, and body shots for longer ranges. While typically relatively accurate weapons, they aren't hyper precise for very long shots, and I found it more effective to aim center of mass when my targets were very far away. When it comes to reload timing, I'd advise letting the magazine run dry more often than not. This might result in the occasion where you'll run out at an inconvenient moment, but it's more likely that reloading too frequently will cause you to miss out on opportunities to kill targets. And with such large magazines, counting rounds generally isn't a viable tactic. You could instead count the seconds for how long you've been firing. With the Type 88, you will generally want to stick by teammates or defend friendly points. Its suppressive abilities function best when teammates are nearby to capitalize on it, and due to its long reloads, you benefit a lot from having backup for the occasional downtime. For the LSAT, sticking by teammates is still helpful for the typical LMG reload, especially since it's more frequent due to having fewer rounds. However, it performs generally more effectively lone wolfing it compared to the Type 88 due to better precision, making a bipod less important and having mildly swifter handling stats, like a slightly faster reload and deploy time. You generally should not hesitate to pre-fire or mag dump these weapons. Being large magazine LMGs, being able to constantly rain fire on your enemies is arguably one of their main strengths. Pre-fire can also help mitigate their poor hipfire performance. In general, I'd say playing aggressive with the LSAT can be doable, just be sure to stop every once in a while and survey the landscape for targets. The Type 88, however, definitely favors a more methodical fighting style, best for defense or as a rear guard for your team. The absolute best firing stance for these weapons is aimed stationary fire. They massively lose aimed accuracy when you move. You generally should avoid close combat, but if you do find yourself forced to engage in close range, hipfire is better than aiming down your sights and moving at a creeping speed. If you want light machine guns that serve the standard roles you'd expect of them, look no further. These weapons provide large magazines with middling LMG firepower and middling LMG accuracy, and little in the way of any major weaknesses, providing about as much flexibility as you can expect from the LMG class of weapons. If you want to be informed of future video releases by me, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell for notifications. Also consider liking the video if you enjoyed it. If there is something I missed, or you think I got wrong, or if you just want to contribute to discussion, please feel free to comment as well.